Numerous alien species had united under the governance of the Galactic Council in a far-off region of the galaxy, were great ancient civilizations that existed for thousands of years. Among them were species renowned for their cutting-edge technology, unparalleled power, and military supremacy throughout the galaxy. Been a haven of order for a long time, with their leaders upholding peace with their overwhelming might, but among these seasoned warriors, one tiny, recently discovered planet stood out: Earth. Earth was unique from the other planet. The galactic community had only just been invited to join the council, and the majority of people thought it was archaic and due to their limited technological capabilities and little history of interplanetary travel. Inexperienced humans where Earth's people were seen as little more than fragile by the experienced extraterrestrial leaders, who did not regard them as major participants. Beings from a backwater planet, they disregarded Earth's warriors, considering them feeble and unproven in the harsh reality of galactic interstellar warfare. At many council sessions, the topics of humanity's shortcomings frequently come up. Too delicate and reliant on them, an extraterrestrial general might describe their emotional state. Environment. Someone else would add that Earth's lack of cutting-edge technology was a frequent source of mockery. The council members unanimously agreed that basic people could never survive a full-scale conflict because they thought Earth's warriors were weak and could only resolve small disputes. They were insufficient for the fierce fights that tore through some areas. Despite this, Earth's representatives have consistently spoken up for their people, emphasizing humanity's flexibility and tenacity, but the council had not heeded their words. Battled in innumerable wars, endured horrifying perils, and emerged victorious from fights that whole solar systems. What knowledge of warfare could humanity possibly possess that these species hadn't acquired millennia before? It didn't take long for the right chance to test Earth's warriors against a perilous rogue species that were invading isolated colonies and endangering the integrity of the galaxy had evolved from its periphery. Council's authority, this species, renowned for its ruthless methods and overwhelming size, had already conquered a number of smaller, weaker planets. The council had to respond swiftly. But they considered this as the ideal opportunity to witness what Earth's warriors were made of during a hot council gathering with one of the most renowned leaders. A massive reptile, with years of combat expertise, made the audacious recommendation to let people handle this threat. Voice full of arrogance: if they are really prepared to fight beside us, let them show it to us. Many council members grinned, amused by the thought that if their warriors are as strong as they claim, then this is nothing more than a test. A simple technique to definitively demonstrate that humanity were not meant for interstellar combat nonetheless. Earth's representatives accepted the challenge and decided to send a unit of their finest fighters, and not just any unit, to take on the rogue species. This group would be from the Green Beret, one of the greatest military units on Earth. The council members were dubious because none of them had ever seen humans, despite knowing about Earth's armed forces. Warriors in action, to them, this was merely another chance to demonstrate Earth's vulnerability, something they expected mankind to fail rapidly when confronted by the enemy's superior weaponry and troops. The council was maybe a little too excited to witness the unavoidable collapse of the human forces, proving that, although Earth was in fact too delicate to withstand actual combat, Earth's authorities possessed complete, while in the Green Beret. These warriors stood apart from the typical human military unit they had training in. The Green Beret was created in some of the most extreme and hazardous settings imaginable. A reputation for overcoming great obstacles and emerging victorious when others would fail triumphant. But the council was oblivious to the fact that they were about to observe something that would permanently alter their perspective. As the Galactic Council prepared, observing the expedition from a distance, they would note every action prepared to declare Earth unsuitable for further military use. Operations the minute something went awry. The council members' seasoned perspectives and millennia of experience couldn't comprehend that these weak folks from a small planet can actually be successful. In the decision to dispatch the Green Beret was viewed as having little question about the outcome in the council rooms. Merely a formality, a means of silencing Earth's delegates and ending the discussion that humanity were entering a conflict they couldn't win against a foe that was far stronger than they were. The Council of the Galaxy watched, fascinated and amused, to see how long Earth's warriors would last before they eventually collapsed. But the Green Berets were going to be unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Discover firsthand the consequences of undervaluing humanity. Green Berets' Earth elite troops were different from other troops, were selected for more reasons than only their brute force or obedience to command. Every member of the group was exceptional in their capacity to adapt, think, and get past any challenges that came their way. Taught to flourish in circumstances where others would fail, their training was intended to drive pushing them to the brink of human potential and then insisting they surpass it ever since they were when they were chosen. Green Berets had to train in some of the most difficult circumstances imaginable, conditions that range from frigid alpine ranges to sweltering deserts, where Lear must learn to fight and survive locations where people would die as a result of their bodies being pushed to the brink, and then further, but more than despite their physical strength. They were taught to use their brains to solve problems and think critically under pressure. Issues while others would panic, since their training focused more on learning how to remain calm than merely endurance. Unpredictability in fight, physical power, how to outsmart the opponent at every turn, was sometimes the least significant element. The Green Berets were adept at improvising and could handle any circumstance regardless of how bad things were. They used it to their advantage instead of depending on superior firepower or sophisticated technology, as they were aware that in the turmoil of battle, those things could malfunction, and instead they had to rely on their cunning. One of the most crucial components of their training and their capacity for adaptation was learning how to collaborate with the surroundings, regardless of how hazardous it was. May changed the actual terrain transformed into a weapon, taking advantage of the terrain in ways that their adversaries could never foresee. Whether in deep forests, in urban or barren desert settings, the Green Beret acquired the ability to blend in, strike swiftly, and vanish because they were not constrained by conventional military doctrine. The opponent even knew what struck them, which made them far more deadly than the Galactic Council could have ever imagined, and their versatility was another important factor in their success. Although the alien species, the Council frequently used rigorous tactics that mainly relied on technology with pre-programmed strategies, the Green Berets were agile. They changed their plans in real time in response to the ever-changing combat circumstances, meant that in the event that a plan didn't work out, it simply moved to something fresh without hesitation. Their quick thinking and ability to act before the opposition might predict was one of their strongest suit, but what really made them stand out wasn't simply their physical prowess and tactical acumen, was the intense psychological training each Green Beret had received to prepare them for their mental toughness. They developed the ability to manage their dread in order to endure suffering and weariness in the worst-case situations. When faced with tremendous odds, others would give up, but this mental resilience allowed them to thrive. Something that many alien species warriors could not fully comprehend was not about the mental and emotional fortitude needed to endure the turmoil of combat, but rather about technology and numbers. The Green Berets recognized the value of fraternity as well, and every member of the unit knew they could rely on the others entirely. They were a team united by something greater than simply being a bunch of troops assigned to a mission. Shared knowledge and trust during the heat of battle, each guy operated as a single unit, helping one another to make sure no one was left behind. Their interactions were flawless, and their activities were synchronized with no matter how sophisticated their weaponry was. Their greatest asset was a precision that comes from years of training together. Despite the strength of its warriors, the extraterrestrial species' technology lacked the cohesion that the Green Berets possessed. If only they had united, they could have carried out intricate plans under tremendous duress, something that others would find difficult. Preserve fundamental unity. The Green Beret may transform a chaotic battlefield into a well-planned operation in which they outwit and outfight more formidable opponents. By working together, their reputation on Earth was based on the innumerable missions they had accomplished, many of which were against all odds. But the Galactic Council was unaware of this, and therefore unable to comprehend how a small number of people, lacking the sophisticated technology they so strongly valued, could constitute any genuine threat. The danger that they overlooked was that the Green Berets didn't require the same kinds of instruments that the Council did. The Council's ignorance of their own weapons, which have been refined through years of training and fighting experience, was because of their excessive dependence on technology and brute force. They thought that the people with the most resources would win battles, ships, the most powerful armies, and the most sophisticated weaponry, yet they were unaware of where true strength originated. Within the capacity to adjust in order to withstand and triumph over any obstacle, this idea was personified by Berets, who understood that regardless of how sophisticated the adversary was, there was always a means of victory if you were cunning enough, resilient enough, and prepared to go above and beyond. In the end, it wasn't the Green their wits, their training, and their Berets were their weapons, not their weapons. Despite their unwavering determination to succeed, the Galactic Council had written them off as weak, since they were unable to comprehend what, because they hadn't seen actual warriors. Those with real strength appeared to view Earth's warriors as weak. Were ready to demonstrate to them how mistaken they were about the Green Beret when they were pushed to the limit. When Berets first arrived on the alien world, the terrain was unrecognizable to them, and the air was the extraterrestrial enemy had created this thick, uneven terrain, heavy atmosphere, and strange dampness. Planet, their fortress, a location they thought was impossible for humans to visit, let alone endure. The Galactic Council had anticipated that before the conflict had started, the environment alone would be sufficient to break mankind, but the unfazed. The Green Berets had been trained for precisely these kinds of scenarios. The challenging circumstances did not impede them, rather. They presented a chance for each team member to promptly evaluate the surroundings, seeking methods to take advantage of the topography, rather than viewing the Earth as a barrier. When they first encountered the enemy, they saw it as a tool that they might use to their advantage in the upcoming battle. Unexpectedly, the alien forces were combative and self-assured in their superior technology and numbers. Launched an unreserved assault, using just brute force to defeat the humans they had battled for ages. Conflicts around the galaxy. And they saw this as simply another fast and simple conquest, believing that with more powerful weapons and a greater population, humans had little chance as they approached. Just an overpowering and destructive situation, but the Green Berets were ready for it. Instead of attacking directly, they set up ambushes by using their surroundings to make fast, accurate. The extraterrestrials, accustomed to simpler strategies, were taken off guard by the blows before withdrawing into the shadows. They were baffled as to how a little number of people could avoid their massive firepower, so the extraterrestrials persisted in their advance, attempting to utilize their superior technological capabilities to subdue the humans, but the Green Berets quickly adjusted and set traps each time. What the aliens observed was leveraging the geography to force the adversary into small areas where their numbers were insignificant. Their vast armies became liabilities as their technological superiority and strength numbers were turned against them. It wasn't the kind of tight spaces where the Green Berets could kill them one by one. Simply the strategies that caused the adversary to become disorganized. It was the accuracy of the Green Beret attacks that they didn't squander time or resources, as each shot and movement was intentional. Despite their alien appearance, they attacked with a discipline that could only be acquired from years of training and expertise. Technology was being outwitted and outclassed, and they were unprepared for the tactical and mental. The aliens started to realize that this was more complicated than just a simple conquest due to the cunning of their human opponents. It was to be expected that their confidence wavered as they battled to stay up with the Green Team's ever-changing strategies. Unfortunately, each time they modified their plan, the humans had advanced many steps. There was a degree of unpredictability as they moved forward, altering their strategy and making the aliens respond rather than act. The Green Berets did not merely battle the enemy, they also analyzed it, something the alien forces had never experienced before. They used what they had learned from each encounter and used it to their advantage to take advantage of the aliens' weaknesses. The humans did not engage in combat on the battlefield since they were predictable and relied on technology to give them an advantage. Alien terminology, but instead they wreaked havoc and disrupted the battle's rhythm. As the conflict drew on, pushing the adversary to fight in methods they weren't used to, grew dissatisfied that their original plan had not worked and that their attempts to modify were not up to par. They were accustomed to facing opponents who were either as strong as they were or easily defeated. Overpowered by their technology, yet these people were unique. Although being fewer in number, they engaged in combat with. Although the aliens attempted to increase their pressure, they were unable to match the level of strategy and accuracy. That advantage, the more the Green Beret lost despite the odds. They proceeded, taking calculated chances as they entered hostile territory, and they were merciless in their destruction of important sites, never remaining in one spot for too long, and made it hard for the enemy's attempts to launch a counter-offensive were swiftly repelled by the aliens' massive resistance. The humans used precision to counter each alien strike, eliminating dangers before they had a chance to opportunity to gather speed. By the time the extraterrestrials understood what was going on, it was too late, and their forces were in chaos, unable to properly organize against the human onslaught. What was meant to be, and the aliens who had earlier believed themselves were now fighting a desperate battle to survive after their stunning victory. Having completely underestimated the Green Army, Invincible found themselves on the defensive as they withdrew. The Berets never gave up, pressing the advantage and taking advantage of any weakness they had found in the enemy's lines. was about outwitting the adversary by utilizing every resource at their disposal, not about physical might or cutting-edge technology. Ready to destroy the enemy piece by piece, the aliens had entered the fight with the intention of crushing a less powerful adversary, but they discovered that the Green Berets' cunning and tenacity were superior to theirs when the conflict reached its zenith. The aliens eventually realized the true nature of their adversaries. The humans were not weak or delicate, rather, they were warriors created over many years of knowledge, expertise, and a ferocity in combat that the aliens had never seen before. The Green Berets had demonstrated to them that resilience, adaptability, and strength derived from these things rather than from numbers or technology. Despite unwavering determination to triumph, the aliens' forces had been beaten back by the end of the encounter. Dispersed and without confidence, the Green Berets had not only lived but thrived. Observing from a distance, they had decisively won the Galactic Council and were left in stunned silence, despite their expectations of defeat. What they saw was a demonstration of tactical brilliance and pure tenacity that disproved all of their assumptions about humanity. The Green Berets had demonstrated that Earths at the Galactic Council, warriors were anything but soft. And leaders stared in shock when the combat started. They anticipated that the enemy's superior warriors would swiftly overrun the human warriors. Rather to what they expected to see numbers and technology, what they saw were soft, human folks. At first, there was stillness as people from a planet that many had hardly thought to be relevant were not only surviving but also winning. The council members, who had believed for years, sat still as they tried to understand what was happening on their screens. Due to their lack of modern technology and weakness stemming from their emotions, humans were considered vulnerable. Minor in the context of galactic warfare, but as the Green Berets kept retreating the enemy, it was getting harder for them to deny the reality that a small number of council members who had long questioned Earth's potential continued to hold onto their doubt. This must be luck. One of them murmured as they observed how humans moved. The others nodded in agreement. The alien forces can't possibly keep this going. Reluctant to acknowledge their mistakes, they continued to cling to the hope that humans will finally come to their senses and the odds would finally shift against them, and they would experience the failure they had anticipated. But as the conflict dragged on, it became evident that chance had no bearing on anything, and that people weren't only surviving outwitting their adversary at every move. They swiftly adjusted, foresaw the alien strategies, and employed their surroundings in ways that the council members had not even thought to consider. Their strike's accuracy and effectiveness left no space for without a doubt. This was the outcome of a workout plan, and an unbreakable, silent shift started among some of the leaders, a resolve that none of the council members had anticipated. Who, having before derided Earth's delegates and written off humanity as inferiors, now found themselves an elder of a species renowned for its lengthy history of battle, spoke up, rethinking one of the more seasoned members. These people are not who we expected them to be. His voice was usually confident and firm. Suddenly had a tone of caution. We undervalued them, and others started to whisper in agreement that the council's sense of worry was growing. They had always thought that despite having perfected their grasp of combat over millennia, they faced a race that thought to be rudimentary, exhibiting abilities and strategies that even their most experienced generals could understand. That though not everyone was, council members who had made fun of Earth's warriors began to doubt their presumptions. Some in the crowd were willing to swiftly adjust their opinions, but some were obstinate and stuck to their predetermined ideas that they're simply people. A council member mockingly said, "This is an abnormal. They are unable to maintain this in a protracted battle." But even those who clung to their doubts were unable to dispute the outcomes they were witnessing. The evidence was indisputable as the conflict carried on. The council's incredulity gradually gave way to respect for the fact that people were more than they were not just surviving but also taking control of the battlefield, compelling even the most reluctant leaders to observe how the Green Beret tactics were nothing short of genius and how they could adjust quickly was something that even the galaxy's most developed species found difficult, with one council member serving as a war planner. From a species renowned for its cunning, talked with a fresh respect. They're employing emotion adaptability, something we never would have imagined, to do something we couldn't have predicted. We had previously believed that improvisation strengths were flaws, but for the first time, they had become advantages. The Galactic Council was starting to recognize what they had missed in the past. Because of all their supposed flaws, had a feature that the Council had long ignored: resilience to persevere, adjust, and get past obstacles that seemed insurmountable. In their arrogance, the Council had neglected to acknowledge that brute force or sophisticated technology weren't necessarily the sources of strength. Force occasionally resulted from a determination to live and a refusal to give up there. There was a noticeable change in the room. Council members, who had previously written off Earth as unimportant, were starting to perceive people in a different way. They were no longer the delicate race from a little planet on the outside of the galaxy. As the fight drew to an end, they were fighters ready to go toe-to-toe with the greatest the galaxy had to offer. Once the Green Berets won, the Council sat silently, trying to process what had just happened. Observed that humans had demonstrated their ability to be great warriors by doing more than just survive. The Council members who had made fun of them were now made to face their own conceit and the boundaries of their comprehension. The Council was in a contemplative condition following the conflict, and some of the now humbled members spoke quietly. Admiration for the people we misunderstood. One expressed regret in his "Yet, although humans have showed us that warfare is about more than simply technology, we still don't fully understand it. And they have demonstrated to us the importance of resilience, adaptation, and the resolve to fight, among other things." Agreed with a nod, the atmosphere in the room having completely changed to a galactic that day. The Council had discovered a crucial lesson: they had acted too quickly to condemn and write off a species. They had limited knowledge of humanity, but their Green Berets leadership in the battle had shown them to be one of the Council's senior members. Underappreciated in the silence that ensued, raised his voice. "Carrying the weight of decades of experience, humans have merited their place among us and are greater than we previously acknowledged." And with that, the way the Galaxy Council had previously been so certain of Earth and its warriors was permanently altered. Their superiority now recognized humans for what they really were: resilient, driven, and accomplished beings. The alien enemy faced a very fierce final battle after enduring multiple defeats. Losses at the hands of the Green Beret had gathered once more in an effort to destroy the forces of humanity they brought. They possessed an immense force of soldiers, cutting-edge weapons, and spacecraft that filled the night sky. Demonstration of power intended to make up for the humiliation of their previous defeats and establish their supremacy once and for all, despite their intention to leave nothing behind. The smaller Green Berets remained unfazed despite knowing that this conflict would be the hardest they had yet faced. They had prepared for situations similar to this one. The opponent was desperate, putting everything into this last offensive, but desperation frequently breeds incompetence. Green Berets faced overwhelming odds before, therefore they were composed, focused, and prepared. And when the opposing forces advanced, the Green Berets would confront them once more while holding their ground and carrying out the extraterrestrials tried a frontal attack, counting on their massive numbers to defeat the individuals. But the Green Berets were prepared. They had foreseen this action and had erect defensive fortifications with the intention of forcing the adversary into areas of death. The alien commanders, watching their soldiers struggle, ordered wave after wave, costing them dearly with every step the enemy took forward. Round of reinforcements. Regardless of the number of soldiers they lost, they felt confident in the humanity would soon be exhausted by sheer numbers. But the Green Berets would not give up. Instead, they moved through the area like ghosts. The B battlefield. Precisely coordinating and employing hit-and-run strategies to force the alien forces into every time the adversary reassembled, Green Berets struck again, causing havoc and disruption. The overwhelming force the Green Berets encountered, forcing them to retire from their formations. The Green Berets, never even while the conflict raged on, their discipline and training kept them stable, allowing them to adjust to every change. The aliens were targeted by the adversary, who swiftly and strategically responded. The human ability to adjust in the heat of combat was superior to that of the mighty, who were too rigid in their approach. As the alien forces drew closer, the last seconds of the battle demonstrated the Green Berets' tenacity. The Green Beret delivered what they thought was the final blow, unleashing a counteroffensive that destroyed the enemy's ranks. Had set up a final surprise with a number of traps and concealed obstacles using their understanding of the environment. Explosives that fooled the alien forces into thinking the battlefield was a death trap and caught them off guard. The sudden intensity of the counterattack caused such dread that the previously composed lions disintegrated as the Green Berets pressed the edge. Efficiently and precisely slicing through their lines, the alien leaders realized they were losing. Although humans were in control of the situation and ordered to withdraw, it was too late. Had already prevailed when the last of the alien forces left and the dust settled, making it evident that the Green Beret, not only did they survive, but they had also totally destroyed a far bigger and more technologically sophisticated foe than themselves. The alien army's remains were all over the battlefield, serving as a clear reminder of the cost they had to underestimating Earth's warriors. There were no more members of the Galactic Council. No doubt the participants who had initially observed with uncertainty were now in awe of what they had seen, that humans had not only demonstrated their value, but also that they were a formidable force. Ability to withstand the most the galaxy has to offer and prevail in the council chambers were characterized by a tense stillness as the last battle reports arrived, showing that humans had not only held their ground. The council members were once so confident of the fact that they had destroyed the extraterrestrial danger in a manner that no one could have predicted. The fact that Earth's soldiers were among the greatest in the galaxy was now thrust upon fragility. The Galactic Council mentioned mankind with respect for the first time. Leaders who had previously made fun of Earth now realized the ability and persistence of the green betrayal. There was no doubting the humans had demonstrated that their strength wasn't derived from superior technology, earning them a seat at the table. Superior numbers or technology, it sprang from their unwavering will and capacity to adjust in the face of despite overwhelming odds. The Council started to acknowledge that humans added something novel to the cosmic community. Community members' tenacity, inventiveness, and will to persevere in the face of adversity. Many of the Council's member species lacked the attributes that made the situation seem hopeless, and humans had turning their alleged flaws into assets and, in the process, had altered the rules of combat. One of the most senior members of the Council, led by a guy who had witnessed numerous wars, spoke admiringly of what people had taught us. Today, strength is more than just capability or technology. It's about there was a silent chuckle about the drive to live, adapt, and fight when others would give up. The Galactic Council had learned a difficult lesson in the chamber, but they would never forget the humans. Had demonstrated to them that people who refused to give up often ended up with victory instead of the strongest or most developed concede defeat, as the Council formally acknowledged Earth's human success representatives, who had arrived at the galactic community as underdogs written off by those who had governed for millennia, but now they had gained the Council's esteem. Earth was no longer seen as a tiny, unimportant planet because of its warriors. Demonstrated their ability to compete with the greatest, and the galaxy would never view people in the same way. After completing their mission, the Green Berets came back to Earth as heroes. Had to contend with an adversary who outnumbered and outgunned them, yet they prevailed because of their unwavering will and expertise. Their deeds had not only guaranteed Earth's victory, but also altered the course of the entire cosmos. Thought of humanity in the end, the Galactic Council was compelled to admit that Earth's soldiers were far from, although they were soft, they were strong, robust, and able to accomplish the impossible. The galaxy now knew it as well.